So I live in this town called Sierra Madre. It's just in the foothills above Pasadena. It's its own town. Sierra Madre loves the fact that they don't have any stoplights. There's only stop signs. It's like a whole thing. I love it because there's just one baseball group in town. Like the only sports activity where only people from Sierra Madre play in it is the Little League, and I coach the Little League. So what I love is that my kids get to ride their bike to the field. They get to play with their friends, and then the school is within walking distance. And so after school, whether in the elementary school or the middle school, they all walk to town together. And if you're there on a Friday, you can't get anywhere because there's just hundreds of kids running around, and they know each other. And the other day, our Little League, we all went to a Dodgers game together. And there was 460 of us that went to the game. And it was just crazy. It was so awesome. And afterwards, what I loved about it is when I look around, there's kids there from 3 years old to 15 years old, and that they all get to know each other, and they get to advocate for each other, and they're for each other, wearing the jersey means something. It's kind of like what you would hope for from faith, from life, that you'd have people that were there for you, right? That were empowering you and supporting you. And you remember what it's like. Do you remember being in 4th grade and you saw a high school kid and they said hi to you and you're like, whoa, I am incredible, right? My son Bryce especially, he's just a big lovey teddy bear. If you know Bryce, my middle, and he runs around. And at the games, we have a diner. And at the diner, there's all these high school kids that they used to play in the Little League, and they come and they cook. They make burgers for everybody. And so Bryce loves all the high school kids, and he has no shame in it, right? He's just always run up to them, and he talks to them. And so whenever they see him in town or whatever, they're like, "What up, Bryce?" And his little 4th grade heart is 10 sizes too big right there. And the other day, I'm even in town, and this kid, Jimmy sees Bryce on his bike, rides on over. He's like, "What's up, Bryce?" And Jimmy and Bryce have the same number. Jimmy's 5 years older than Bryce. He just gives Bryce a big hug. And it was so beautiful. So after that Dodger game, both of my boys say, "Hey, some kids want to meet us at the field, and we're going to go play wiffle ball, and some of the high school kids are going to come." I said, "Yeah, not a problem. I go to the field, get on over there." And when I came, I'm rolling up at sunset, right? There's just kids on a field playing wiffle ball together of all different ages. And there's these high school kids who secretly have the key to the diner that they're not supposed to have. But they just got everything out, and they just made burgers for all the younger kids. And it was this magical moment of it felt like home. It's this is what I want home to be, where everyone loves each other and knows each other and empowers each other and supports each other, and they're there for each other. And you make memories with one another. And that's what I hope for. Abbey, that's what I hope for New Abbey. It's what I've always hoped for this place. That the dream of this place is that we would just create home with each other. That we would have that mutuality, that we would have that hospitality, that we would have that care, that we would show up. And you guys model it all the time. But I think what I realized in the last 6 months is that I want to push in even a little bit more. There's an intentionality that I want for this community, that we could create home together. Something I've recognized is what we do well is I call this improv church to the church. Not because we do improv on stage sometimes, because improv is rooted around yes and. We're really good at yes and for all the people who've got multiple other jobs and multiple other things going on. We hear an idea, we say yes and, we go try to make it happen. Sometimes we pull it off, sometimes we don't pull it off, but we're just yes and. And then there's these moments of just powerful intentionality. Easter was one of those moments for me, where it was Paul just did such an amazing job with the band and with the choir. Yeah. That there was just little details across the board, from hospitality to volunteers, and that little bit of intentionality I felt and experienced. And what I love about that intentionality of what we do on Sundays is I see how that intentionality translates over and transfers over into our actual lives. It's when you have intentionality there, when you feel cared for, when you're not just volunteering because the church is begging you and guilting you to do it, which we will do. You're there because you feel so cared for by this place. Because you know that you're going to see Tanya and Arlene. Because you know that Lane's going to give you a hug. Because you know that Karen loves your kids so, so much. And I want to keep leaning into that intentionality, New Abbey, in a different season. I want to make home together. In some ways, I want to make home together because as I was at that other theater, I realized we've moved from place to place to place. And so much of what we've done as New Abbey is we're like the millennials who live in LA who can't buy a home. So we're just oh, I guess that apartment lease is up, right? But I've been dreaming, what would home look like? Maybe it's a physical space. But maybe what we need to do is dream together and believe and set out to build home. And we'll be surprised by what happens. Versus just accepting the reality, I guess we're just renters in LA. Maybe there's more for us. maybe there's more opportunity. And by us leaning into that intentionality, we'll discover deeper care, deeper community, better communication, better health, better transformation and healing and maturity in our lives. And so today, I want to talk about home. If we're going to do that, we're going to talk about some things. We're going to talk about the entire Bible. Honestly, when you get to dinner tonight, when I'm done, it's going to be awesome. We're going to talk about what it means to be builders, to be responsible, to be co-creators, to be mutual in this thing with God. If we can do that, we just got to talk about growing up. If we can grow up together, New Abbey, then we're going to talk about another 3:16 passage. If we can do that, I want to tell you about that time I was just inspired watching Chef's Table's Legends. If we can do that, I want to tell you some stories about blueberry pancakes. And if we can talk about blueberry pancakes, I just want to end by thinking about ways that we can be intentional with one another. Follow along with me in the weirdest verse we've read in a while from Exodus 39. So all the work on the tabernacle and the tent of meeting was completed, and the Israelites did everything just as the Lord had commanded Moses. You guys all read this one this week? Yeah, that's cool. Then they brought the tabernacle to Moses, the tent and all its furnishings, its clasp, its frames, its crossbars, posts, and bases. And the people went, ooh. The covering of ram skins, dyed red, and the covering of durable leather, not regular leather, and the shielding curtain, the Ark of the Covenant with its poles. I'm trying to read it like it's exciting. It's not, all right? And the atonement cover, the table with all its articles, and the bread of the presence, the purple gold lamp, the pure gold lampstand with its rows of lamps and all its accessories, and the olive oil for the light, the gold altar, the anointing oil, the fragrant incense, and the curtain for the entrance to the tent, the bronze altar with its bronze grating, its poles, and all its utensils, the basin with its stand, the curtains of the courtyard with its posts and bases, and the curtain for the entrance to the courtyard. Come on, in Jesus' name. And the ropes and the tent pegs for the courtyard, all the furnishings for the tabernacle, the tent of meeting, and all the woven garments worn for ministering in the sanctuary, both the sacred garments for Aaron the priest and the garments for his sons when serving as priests. And the Israelites had done all the work just as the Lord had commanded Moses. And Moses inspected the work and saw that they had done it just as the Lord commanded. So Moses blessed them. Cory, why are we reading that? So I don't know about you, but I'm a huge Bible nerd, and I love reading Jewish rabbis. It's one of my favorite things to do. That's not a joke. I love it. And I'm reading a Jewish rabbi like 3 months ago, and he asked this question, which none of you were pondering that Tuesday morning, was why, for the last third of the book of Exodus, do we spend so much time talking about the details of the tabernacle when it is only a temporary presence for Yahweh? You were thinking the same thing, I know. But then this is where it gets good, my friends. This is where it gets interesting, because all of those details are about intentionality. All of those details are about what the people are bringing forward and now what they are doing for God. That this is a moment of growing up for the people of Israel. And you're not expecting this when you're in the story of Exodus. Remember, the story of Exodus is like the mother of all stories in the Hebrew Bible. It is the story of liberation. You just went through the Red Sea. You saw God conquer the Egyptians. You are now in the desert, and you see these stories of a people traveling in the wilderness. And then there's a hard pause, and you spend 15 chapters talking about the details of the tabernacle. Now, we don't think that's weird because we were taught to grow up and not question if the Bible's weird or not. It's so weird all the time. Right? Imagine you're at the end of Harry Potter. Voldemort has been defeated, and it pauses, and it goes on 30 minutes for how Hogwarts was built. You'd be like, what the hell is this? What is this? Does he marry Hermione? Does he marry Ginny? What's happening? It's a weird pivot. And so, we're here, and it's all about intentionality, and it's all about home. That the Bible starts in Genesis with a story about God intentionally building us a home. And so often in life and faith, we've been taught you hear a sermon or you go to some type of course or you say a prayer and then it's all fixed. But that's just not the way that Jesus ever worked. It's not the way the Bible works, not the way our faith tradition works. There's a realization of come and follow me, and Jesus invites those guys into 3 years of following him, and they still don't get it, which is good news for us. That this thing is all about practicing new rhythms and habits. And so the journey starts with God saying, let me set the stage with what we're going to do. I'm going to build you home. It's going to be wildly intentional. And it's going to be so good. And you are good. And not only are you good, and this was a revolutionary thought thousands of years ago. It's still a revolutionary thought today. But you are made in my image. Imagine the implications if you actually believed that you were made in my image. Imagine the implications if you actually believed that the person who was sitting next to you was made in your image. Not like the idea of it, but you believed it so much. And Jesus will come along and push it even further. Imagine the implications that you so believe that human beings are made in the image of God, it would be impossible for you to kill another human being. Right? So it's all baked in early on, but then we got to grow up, just like a kid. You don't learn all this stuff in a day. It takes time. So then you get into the Exodus story. And the Exodus story is all about the liberation. From here, it's God developing a family, and for here, it's God developing a people. That there's an evolution everywhere we go in the Bible. That is Hebrew, you're welcome, whatever that is. Perfect. And so, in the Exodus story, what you get to is that you get all of the liberation moments, and then you get to the tabernacle, and here's where the switch happens. Here's what every rabbi knows, and I didn't know it until like 2 months ago. Here's where God builds us home. And for the first time ever in the last third of the book of Exodus, God's people are finally ready to build God home. It's a growing up moment. Have you ever been there where you bought your parents' dinner for the first time? Yeah, wallet's on the table. Chest is puffed out just a little bit. Yeah, Red Robin's on me tonight, no big deal. You want another freckled lemonade? I got you. It's a big deal. We have all of these growing up moments in our life where now it's like, yeah, all of these people have cared for me. All of these people have shaped me. God has been there for me. And faith starts there. We have all these conversations of how's God going to show up? How's God going to be with me? How's God going to be for me? How's God going to be ahead of me? And you need that in your life, by the way. You need to deeply understand that and feel that and experience that and be transformed by that if you're ever going to get over here. But eventually you get to a place of, now it's my turn. I'm going to intentionally give back and build with God because God has given me so much. I'm just beyond the questions of what's God going to do for me today. I'm moving towards the questions of what can I do for God today. Now, what's hard for a group of like this in this room is that so many of us grew up in environments where that was abused in some way. What can you do for God? How can you give to the church? Can you give more money? The pastor lives in a great house, but you live in an apartment. Can't you just squeeze a little bit more out of it? But you've been here a while, New Abbey. And now you got to heal. And now you got to grow. And you can ask those questions endlessly, and you can be mad at the church endlessly, and you can constantly be suspicious. This is not a sermon about giving, by the way. Some of you are like, whoo, but you can always give more. Just like, in case that wasn't clear. Jason, everybody! Huh? All right. I don't remember what I was talking about, but this is a place of growing up. And this is the intentionality that we see in the book. And the book of Exodus just spends like 15 more chapters talking about the home of God. And it's a temporary home of God. It's that evolutionary moment where you were freed from Egypt. You were free from the things that you've been begging to be freed from. But now you got to ask yourself the question, how do I live? What does it look like? I've only known how to be a slave in Egypt. I've only known how to be oppressed. I've only known how to live this narrative over here. No one's taught me what it's like to live in the promised land. No one's taught me what it looks like to be free. How many of people come into this room and you're like, I don't know what it's like to be free. And we have a fun couple years, right? Yeah. Because you're figuring it out. You're growing up in some way. And then eventually you get to the place of like, oh, that was fun, but there's like so much more that I want. Like I want depth in my relationships. I want like beauty and connection in a different way. And freedom looks like something else. So you move, right, where God has this temporary home, and then eventually you get to the Bible, and we're like in 1 Kings now, and we build the temple, and the people build a more permanent home for God. And what I love about the evolutionary universal story for all of humanity here is this, is that sometimes when we grow up, right, we're like, okay, this really worked out. We had the temporary home for God. We're going to like make this thing even bigger. Like I know that I got the entry-level job, but C-suite baby, right? Whatever the thing is, we want to evolve and grow, and then we think to ourselves, if I just can do this thing, then I'm going to be satisfied. Anyone been there? I swear, if I just get this, all of my dreams are answered. That wish, that job, that person, that thing, if I can just have it. And then what's interesting is they get that thing, and God's like, I promise you, there's more to the thing than that thing. There's like a whole deeper levels of layers of not just having that thing. What you actually want is connection with me and connection with one another, but you're putting all of your focus on having the temple, and it's really not going to work out for you, but I'm going to let you grow up, and so you get to figure it out on your own. And then they do. And eventually the thing is taken from them, and they're heartbroken. Of course they're heartbroken. We've all been there. I didn't expect that. I didn't ask for this. I don't want that. And yet those are the only places that we seem to grow. I hate that. I don't like growing out of pain and suffering and betrayal and hurt and loss and grief. I joke in here all the time, I want to grow in Maui. That is where I want to grow. That is where I want to do God's best work, but it just doesn't happen that way. It's a place of relaxation. It's a place of rest, but I grow in all of the other stuff. And then you eventually get to the book of Jeremiah. We're like so close to getting through the Bible, guys, I promise you. I have a problem writing E's on a board. In the book of Jeremiah, right, the temple is destroyed, and the people of God evolve and grow in a different way. But here's the magic of it for like the evolution of spirituality for all of humanity, is that the temple needed to be destroyed and the people were dispersed all around the world. But you know what they brought all around the world with them? Spirituality for the first time. Because they were so dependent on the temple. They were so dependent on saying, this is where God's house is. And it finally was saying, no, what if there's a bigger story out there? It's like God was saying this, don't put God in a box, right? Every time you put God in the box, God is literally going to break out of the box. That is so many of your stories here. You were given a box, and this is where God fits, and if you just do the things, and if we just honor God, if we could just be faithful, then the temple will never be destroyed, your life will be okay, and everything will work out for you. How many of you heard those messages? And you tried doing all the things, and you said all of the prayers, and you asked for it to be taken away. We know this. I say that in here all of the time. And this is trying to tell you, yes, sometimes it will get taken away. And what's crazy is it's out of your suffering. It's out of your pain. It's out of the grief. It's out of the loss that you actually find a deeper sense of who God is. And you find God in the most mysterious places. That God was no longer locked in just this place over here. That you ended up seeing that God is perhaps everywhere and always the entire time. And then the Bible gets even like deeper with home. It's like, yeah, I want to teach you what home is like. Man, you guys are like starting to like grow up and make a home for me. Man, you put everything into this house because you thought this was the thing that was going to satisfy you. Then eventually the thing was taken away and you're like, what do we do now? And we get into the Jesus story. And Jesus says this thing about abide. He says, if you abide in me and I abide in you, right? And the word abide just means abode, which just means home. Jesus is trying to expand the story even more. Jesus is trying to take spirituality and faith and depth into a whole nother level. And he's trying to say, it's not just for a family, it's not just for a people group, it's not just about you taking it to some people. This is about taking it to all people. That this is the message as you keep growing, as you keep learning, as you keep discovering, you're going to realize that home is in everybody. And then Paul's eventually going to take it to the furthest place of all. And in 1 Corinthians 3:16, Paul's going to say, you are the dwelling place of God. You are where God's Spirit rests. This is massive evolution of spirituality, by the way. And why am I giving you this like boring lecture on a board in the middle of a Sunday? It's because this is our journey. God is saying, I already want to give you the template up front. I understand that you're going to go through some liberation. And once you've been liberated, now the real work begins and you got to practice new rhythms and new habits in your life. And I want you to be wildly intentional in this thing. Because over here, before this, you were just passive observers and you just wanted passive blessings from me. And that's what you thought God did. You thought I was just a magic genie or Santa Claus and I show up at certain times in your life to fix things. But man, I want so much more for you because I made you in my image. And I'm the one who made all of the heavens and all of the earth. I'm the one who built everything. So if I'm the one that does that and you're made in my image, imagine what you can do when you're free. Imagine who you can become when you're free. Imagine what you're capable of. That there's 8 billion of us on planet Earth, and every single one of us has a unique angle and light to shine for what God's doing in the world. Man, would you come build with me? Would you come co-create with me? Would you come be responsible and intentional and give everything that you have? Would you stop asking the question today, what will God do for me? And would you start asking the question of what could I do for God? Because when I give back into that thing, man, that's when I really find home. And then when I grow in that thing, I think I did that all in one breath in one sentence. That was crazy. I think when you really live into that thing, then when you do hit the suffering, you're like, man, I can endure suffering in a whole different way now. This is what we talk about here all the time. This is the journey of Jesus. That the story of the cross is all about that I'm going to learn to transform my pain and not transmit it. Because I so understand who I am, because I'm so transformed by good news, because I so get where the journey begins, that when I do deal with difficult things, because I will deal with difficult things, I have a different way of dealing with it. And then eventually I get to the place where I finally recognize that I am home. I should absolutely take care of myself. I should give everything I have to investing in me and caring for me, because you know who lives here? God's Spirit lives here. I cannot afford to not take care of me. And when I do that, then I have the fullest ability to go take care of other people. I have the best eyes to see what's going on in the world. I have the best ability to care and to enter into community. And that's what I want to be about, New Abbey. I want to be on a journey of home with one another, not just maybe that one day we find our own space and we create home and we create a beautiful, magical, physical reality together. Maybe that reality will allow us to be aware of what we've created together. In my mind, I'm like, we're somewhere like here, right? We got like this like temporary dwelling of God that we've been working on for like 13 years, and we're figuring out how to be liberated. And now that we're liberated, we're going to figure out how to grow up with one another. And now that we're growing up with one another, I think we're going to figure out how to be intentional with one another. Because if not, you just be stuck in the wilderness forever, and it's such a bummer, truly. And sometimes if I'm just like, I'm in non-preaching mode right now. Let me just talk to you. That's how I felt. I'm like, I feel like Abby's in a good spot, but we're just kind of in the wilderness waiting for the promised land. I think there's so much more for this place. And to be honest, the more for this place is not me. The more for this place is us. Us being intentional. Us going somewhere together, us building something beautiful, us creating a world for these kids that they have the most beautiful, dynamic, integrated, healthy understanding of who God is. Us allowing adolescents to figure out their sexual identity and their sexual ethics and their physical health and their mental well-being and their emotional care and their spiritual journey with this diverse group of people who are just honest and transparent, right? And living in mutuality. What a dream that we could make home together, New Abbey. What a gift that home is within each and every one of us. I remember all these different seasons of New Abbey that I look back on so fondly. There was the first season of New Abbey. We were in my apartment for like a year and a half. Talk about a mega church. And we bought all these blueberry bushes, and we planted them in this garden on this third floor of this apartment building. And every Sunday, once the blueberry bushes grew, we would just make blueberry pancakes with one another. It was like so stinking sweet. And it was just like this beautiful moment of intentionality, like, oh, we did that, we fostered that. And those blueberries were for everyone else in the apartment complex, but for us on Sundays, it was the kids grabbing blueberries and someone in the kitchen making them together, and it just felt like home. For years, we would go to this neighborhood in Highland Park on the 4th of July, and like hundreds of neighbors would come out, and there was a lot of alcohol people, right? And like a riding bull and very illegal fireworks, right? And I'm surprised my kids can hear to this day, but it was just home. I think about each of the places we've been and all the people who come through New Abbey, and I just have so many fond memories of home. And New Abbey, what I'm saying is home evolves and home grows. And we're no longer in the place. Do you know, I spent years having coffee with people, and it's just like, can we please just work through, is hell real or not? I haven't been asked that in like 5 years. Because the world's growing and evolving, and like you all have podcasts now. So like, you don't, like, you can Google, right? There you go. But I think what I hear more and more is you're super interested in, I want health. I really want to be connected in Los Angeles. I really want to give it my all to a place. And I really love New Abbey, and I want to do it here. And I think something I've been disappointed in myself is I've heard a lot of those ideas, and I haven't been able to execute on it or follow up on it just because of time. I'm like, New Abbey, man, I think this is the season where we're going to give it our all. Because I think about living in Sierra Madre, and I think about these kids who like love my kids, but there's a part of that story that's missing, right? There's a depth here that we get that Sierra Madre can never offer me. There's a connection here. And I want to invest in this community. I want to invite you all to invest in this community in ways where we can be highly intentional. So let's talk about what that means. This is a story about responsibility. This is a story about saying you have something to add and to build in the story. This is a story about saying that you're co-creating. This is also a story. There's another fun part in Exodus. I'm not going to read it because I'm not going to bore you on a Sunday morning. But it says that Moses asked them to bring things, and they brought so much. He's like, stop bringing things, right? Because they were just like, man, we're all in on this thing. And part of the story was all before that happened, the people were just like complaining like crazy. For me, it's like their deconstruction moment. They're like, did you really bring us out of Egypt? It's so hot out here. Can't we just go back? Like, those are real words, right? Like, just give us water. It's better to be slaves in Egypt, God, than to be out here. How many of you have ever been there, right? Like, we just practice complaining a lot. We practice cynicism. We practice just being mad at things all of the time. There's the golden calf story. Maybe you remember that one. Moses is like, give me like a hot 10 minutes. I'm going to go up the mountain. I'm going to talk with God. I'm going to come back with some commands. Moses is gone for 2 minutes, and they're like, party time. Let's build a golden calf, right? They're just complaining. They haven't matured at all. They haven't developed any new rhythms and habits. And Moses comes down from the mountain. He's like, WTF? I haven't even been gone that long. And it's finally in that moment, he's like, what we need to do, the only way that you're going to get over complaining and cynicism and my life's not working out and victimhood language and being mad all the time is if you go build something together. So let's go build that thing together. We're going to go build the tabernacle. And we're going to make this temporary dwelling place for God because we need it. Because we need to realize that we have been liberated. And we don't need to just keep talking about liberation. We need to go do something about it in this world. And so that's what I want to do now, Abbey. I want to go do something about the liberation that we've experienced. I want to go do something about the bigger story of God that we're telling with one another. And here's how I want to do that this summer. For the next 90 days, we're just going to talk about home this summer. It's like travel time, so I get that you're gone. We did like 2 gatherings for like 3 whole weeks. We're not doing that anymore. JK, sorry about that. And partly because we realized like we just want people together. It's summer, people are out and about. But what we do want is, would you take summer so slow? Would you just be like so intentional this summer about your own self-care? Would you take more beach days this summer? Would you read more books? Would you just go to parks and turn your phone off and lay in the shade? And would you dream about the fact that you're building something with God? Would you just revel in the deep reality that you are made in God's image? Now, Abbey, would you have wine nights with each other? Or grape juice if you're in recovery. You get it. Yeah. I didn't mean that like facetiously. I'm like dead serious about that, by the way. I'm in recovery, not for alcohol. Besides the point. Here we go. So if you see me with alcohol, you're like, oh, it's not going well for him. I love margaritas. Not my thing. Not my thing. That was a commercial break, and I'm glad that we're back. Thank you. Would you be intentional with each other? Would you not only care for yourself and take those moments to read and slow down and to love yourself, would you also be like, God, I'm just going to be so intentional about people at New Abbey? I get this like amazing gift every week when I come here where I get into conversation time and I get to like hear these people's beautiful stories. Maybe I'm like, hey, do you want to grab lunch today? I would love to hear more about you. To be honest, I come here all the time looking for community, and now I want to go create it. Maybe like I have an idea and I'm so scared to do it. Jason, everybody. You're going to go tell Jason. Seriously. And then, would you intentionally invest in God? And I'm so serious about this. I've learned more and more as a pastor over the last 18 years of being a pastor. Yes, I was a pastor at 12 years old. And you realize that it's so often you fail as a pastor because people think that they need to come to you for something. And my only job is to empower you to trust yourself that God's Spirit is already within you. I want to be there. I want to encourage you. I want to support you. But at the end of the day, I want you to learn to care for yourself. And you got to go practice some habits where you're intentional with God. And I hope that when you've come to this place long enough, you realize now that God's not scary anymore. Most of the work that we do in this place is just trying to tell you a different story that you can just have a different idea of God. God's not mad at you. God's not playing games with you. This is not bad news. This is the greatest news in the world, that from the beginning of time, God has already said, you are good and you are made in my image, and I want home with you. And the story ends, by the way, in Revelation, and it says that I make a new heaven and a new earth, and in that version of it, this is the only time where God makes something out of nothing. Over there, it's this like beautiful moment of transcending, including at the end of Revelation, where it's God is just trying to say to the world, I'm going to take everything that you've gone through, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and I'm going to use it to make home. Together, we're going to make home with one another, like permanent home. It's an idea. It's a beautiful vision of where we're going, and I want to do that with one another. So would you commit to that this summer, New Abbey? Commit to loving yourself so stinking well. And like, if you're like, I want to like go on a date with myself, but I'm broke, I would love to give you $20 to like grab an In-N-Out and sit in a park by yourself and just love yourself. Man, go find other people in this community that you can be intentional about, because they need you, and I think you really need them. And would you fall in love with God again? And I want to end on that story. I heard this Richard Rohr podcast, and I maybe already shared this in here. I don't know. I'm losing my mind these days. But Richard Rohr was on this podcast with like this one evangelical and this one Catholic, and he's so sweet if you know Richard Rohr, and he just says to them, I get that you're like deconstructing from those systems and they no longer work for you, but it was those places that you learned to fall in love with God. And you did, and it makes me weepy, because the question that I ask myself all the time is, are we creating a world where my kids are learning to fall in love with God? And I deeply care about that. And I don't want them to be in the same systems of how I learned to fall in love with God, because I was so scared that if I didn't fall in love with God, I was like a burn in hell for all of eternity. That's stressful as a 6-year-old, by the way. I want my kids to live in a place where they learn to fall in love with God because they know you, Meg the Stallion. Because they know you, Mindy. And you're so thoughtful to text about Bella dancing at Disneyland. Because they know you, Brent, and the way that you care for them. Because they know you, teams, and the way that you so faithfully show up to serve this community. And I can go on and on and on. I want my kids to fall in love with God because you fell in love with them. And together, let's go build home together. Now, Abbey, I'm so thankful for you. I think this is a new season. We've got a new person here who's going to help guide us and help us build together because he has the time to do it. It's a special moment, and I'm glad we get to do it with one another. We're going to have some conversation time, but I also want to remind you that after this, Brittany's made some really incredible food, and let's just go eat together and make home together and enjoy each other's company. So would you get in the same 3 or 4 groups, and would you answer this question? How can you intentionally create home this summer? Enjoy.